Hey y'all, it's Lena to intro our podcast episode with Jessica Thornton Murphy. Today, Jessica and I talk about her company, Plunge, which sells detailed loom woven towels. What makes these towels even more special are the unique designs on each one. Jessica works with small artists to create a unique piece for a new towel. I was lucky enough to learn more about the beauty of sustainability through the maintenance of strong relationships. Keep listening to learn more about Jessica, her company, and the intimate relationships she forms with her artists. Make sure to follow at Plunge Towels on Instagram to keep up with the newest designs. So I would love to just start this interview off by learning a bit more about who you are, a little bit maybe like life history, where you grew up, just some hobbies, and
Well, my name is Jess, or Jessica Thornton Murphy, my full name. And I'm the founder of Plunge. But I grew up a little bit between Northern California and San Diego. So most of my childhood was spent up in the Bay Area in Marin, and then I went to high school in San Diego. So then after that, I went to college in New York and then dropped out of school and then kind of bounced around between places, but mostly I'm a California girl, born and raised.
Awesome. I was actually born and raised in New York, so that's so cool. What school did you go to in New York?
I went to NYU.
Oh, awesome.
Just for a couple of years and then left. And then, I tried art school in San Francisco. I tried going to school down in San Diego, and then, just eventually realized it wasn't for me, but went to the School of Life.
Yes, the School of Life has far more lessons than regular school, so props.
Well, there's for sure a lot that I wish I had stayed for, but I feel like in general, to each their own. I've had so many different jobs and done so much in so many different areas that for me it kind of all led to something totally different, which is what I'm doing now, making towels with artists. But I feel like I've learned so much from all the different places I've been and the people that I've met and the jobs that I've had. And then, my own interests are like going to the beach all the time and being in nature and hiking and surfing and swimming and exploring. And I feel like that all plays into this project as a whole,
Yeah.
So you asked about hobbies. I think that's most of them.
Great hobbies.
I'm really obsessed with plants too. Recently got into stained glass.
Ooh, stained glass is cool. Yeah, I'm a big plant girl. My whole nightstand right now just looks like
a little jungle.
But it makes me happy. So
I'm right there with you. I'm at my mom's house right now, and I'm like, Mom, you only have 4 plants. That's we need to help you with that.
Yeah, you need more greenery.
Yeah.
But on the topic of Plunge and kind of taking all those experiences to what you've created now, can you tell me more about Plunge and your company and how it originated and kind of maybe some inspirations behind the start of it?
Yeah, for sure. So for people who may not know, Plunge is a small line of beach towels that I produce with rising artists, and each is made in a limited edition so that it feels like a usable art print. And I don't mass produce anything and try to keep it small so that everything feels really special and intimate. And then, they're 100% cotton and made in the USA on a small loom, which is really important to me too, to just keep everything kind of as local as can be and sustainable in a way. Mm-hmm. And then, I feel like I never really thought of this project as a business in the beginning. It wasn't until later that it kind of morphed into that, but it kind of happened during the pandemic, and a lot of my friends are artists and found themselves out of work and wanting a creative outlet. And I was in the fortunate position of having set aside some money previously, because I knew I kind of wanted to eventually, start my own thing in whatever capacity. And I didn't really know what it was, but then I had kind of had this idea of beach towels in the back of my mind for a long time, because one of my most prized possessions is this towel that my mom had. She got it in France when she was pregnant with me, and for some reason it's always just been around, and it's really cool and simple. But I thought, oh man, there's really an opportunity here to make something cool with beach towels. So flash forward to the pandemic, and I'm really sorry about the barking dog. I decided to just kind of work with my friends and make something together. And I was like, why not beach towels? It's something we can do outside and encourages happiness and something fun. And let's just make something together and sell it. And then I'll split the profits with you guys, and let's see if people buy it. Who knows? And then they did. And it's not that I didn't expect it, but I was just pleasantly surprised that people really responded so well to it. And that kind of allowed me to reach out to other artists that I just really admired and wanted to make something with. And then it kind of just went from there.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like the pandemic was also opened a lot creatively for people, because if they had the option to, because it's kind of oh, I have all this time now that I can't do other things, and so I feel like
Totally.
I've heard similar stories like that. So
yeah, it's interesting because some people really struggled with the all the extra time, but I think for a lot of creative people, it really allowed them to shine and use that creative energy to just do something kind of outside the box or think differently about their current situation. And so really, I'm just lucky that it all came together, and I happen to know some really creative people. But yeah, I think it was kind of this weird blessing in disguise to give us some quiet time to think and do something totally different from our normal lives and kind of reset that track.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I love that. Kind of going off of that and being able to work with friends who are artists, what does that, if you could kind of give a basic timeline of what that process looks like for you. I know you talked about sustainability and how important that is to you. So maybe adding that in more of what you appreciate about sustainability, and then also working with the artist. What does that look like for you when creating something?
Yeah. So sort of a timeline of how the towel things work is it takes about 2 months from start to finish. I usually reach out to people just to kind of gauge interest and see if they'd want to make a towel. And then we talk about design, and we're kind of limited because of the way that we make the towels. They're Jacquard-woven, which just basically means they're woven on a loom instead of printed or dyed or embroidered or anything like that. And basically, I asked the artist to make an original piece of art for this project. And then, like I said, everything's made in a limited edition. So we only make about 50 towels per design. And then we kind of just work together to decide what might be cool for the project. And then I have to convert any physical art object, if it's a drawing or a painting, into a digital form to send to my weavers who are on the East Coast. And then they put it into the looms and it's done. So then behind the scenes, I'm kind of getting organized with the production side, learning as much as I can about each person in order to write about them when the towel's released. And then also I work with a local printer to make little prints of each towel that goes with it so that, you know, they have something else to kind of have, like, you know, they're numbered so that each one comes with a specific edition number. And yeah, you know, I think there's just so much junk out there in the world. And it's so important to me to make something that's very intentional. Because yeah, I feel like something that I personally really care about is, you know, like I talked about before, I just love nature and I love to be outside. So it's really important to keep in mind that, like, if you're an artist and you're producing something, at least make it something that's A, special, and B, not just gonna add to the garbage pile that's slowly heaping up. And so yeah, that's A, why we do everything 100% cotton, because, you know, eventually it will degrade. And then B, to just keep things in small numbers. I think it makes it more special, but it also limits the amount of just excess stuff in the world. And yeah, I think sustainability is such a big word. And to me, something that I really focus on with Plunge is not only making a sustainable product, but sustaining the careers of the artists that I work with in any small way. And I just think that's so important, because I don't want this project necessarily to be about the material object that we're making together, but if I can help, you know, each person that I work with in some small way, in a sustaining way, where I'm, you know, not just making one thing with someone one time and talking about them for 5 minutes, but I think it's really important to just, over a long period of time, continue that support. And, you know, that's kind of what sustainability means to me, is like long-term support of whatever you're supporting. So yeah, I try really hard to make sure I'm paying attention to what all the people are doing who I work with, whether it's the photographer who's taking my photos, whether it's the people who are making the towels physically, whether it's the artist, whether it's, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I just think the more often I'm talking with them and learning about their process and then sharing that, that to me is like sustainable support, and what I kind of want to keep pushing with this project.
Yeah, that's so awesome, because I feel like I never viewed human interaction as something that could also be sustainable. Like it was always kind of like inanimate objects, and yeah, I thought like clothing and the environment, but also like the sustainability of keeping these important people around who also value your vision. I think it's really great, because yeah, it seems, yeah, it's less about following the next trend and more about just being able to co-create with people who also care and want to make something important and lasting and worthwhile. So
yeah, I think it gets overwhelming, like environmentalism and all that. It's so important, and it's, you know, as a small business, it's really important to keep that stuff in mind, but then to kind of extrapolate on what those things mean and then apply them to even just your business practices and the way that you communicate with people and your audience and customer, I guess. I think that's kind of, in my mind, the key to success. And if I can create a community of mutual support, like that's where I feel the most successful.
That's awesome. Kind of jumping off of that, do you have any specific products, or not products, but specific collaborations that maybe reminded you of those emotions the most, or maybe were your favorite to talk about, or any like good stories from specific collaborations? I'd love to hear more details about that.
Yeah, that's a hard question because each one has been so much fun. And I think part of the most exciting things that I've experienced has been like bringing in this case, like a two-dimensional art piece to life into a 3D form. And every time you open the box and you get a towel, it's so exciting to just see what happens, and then to think about all the different places it will go and the people who will use it and stuff. But I think if I can think of a couple that have really stood out, I did a collaboration with the artist Chelsea Wong, and she's in San Francisco. She's a painter. Look her up. She's great. But that was one of the first artists that I reached out to just as someone I didn't know, but she was an artist I really looked up to and loved and respected her work. And it was kind of a reach for me because like I said, I kind of had just started with some closer friends and people that I knew. But she was someone who, at the time she was still in like the beginning stages of her career, and she had like made so much work already. But anyway, I was just like, oh, I don't know if she's gonna want to do this, but I'm just gonna try. And when she said yes, it was so exciting, and it made me feel like this is gonna be possible. And then, over time, another exciting thing has just been getting to know each artist through studio visits. So what I try to do is interview everybody that I work with, and I go visit their studios if I can. And I bring my friend McKaylee, who's a photographer, and she takes pictures of everybody in their space. And then we kind of chat about the person and their work. And it's always so cool to see how people work and what kind of music they're listening to and what inspires them. And then inevitably we always kind of talk about Plunge and this project. And it's been really, really, really cool to see how all the different Plunge artists have kind of connected in this little community that we've formed. And that was kind of a really nice surprise for me. Like, I thought it was bound to happen because a lot of the artists that I work with started out in the Bay Area. So a lot of them knew of each other at least. But to hear people talk about like, oh, I didn't know about this person until they made a towel, and then I got really hooked on their artwork, or I bought something. That's so cool to me. It's everything I want to do. Create a supportive community, create a network, a launching pad for everybody that I work with to like get to know each other, and really be inspired by each other, because everybody's just doing such incredible things, and to hear about it and know about it and open a line of communication between the artists is really special to me. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Totally does. I mean, yeah, it goes so much more deeper. Like, it's beautiful that the connections that you've made with artists has in turn like caused them to make connections of their own within the same group of people, and like creating inspiration for others. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's so many cool, women, people of color, people from the LGBTQ community, etc., that have like wanted to participate in this, and to be able to work with all different kinds of people doing all different kinds of things is so cool. And I just want to be able to keep doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And going off of that, I wanted to ask you like what your goals and aspirations were for the future of Plunge. I'm sensing what your goals and aspirations are. But yeah, just anything that you're hoping to do for Plunge in the future, people that you're hoping to work with. And
yeah, I think as long as we can continue to create and build community, that's really exciting to me. I, of course, would love Plunge to grow so that I can work with more people. And then aside from making towels, I think it's just really fun to make other kinds of things. So right now I'm kind of trying to think outside the box a little bit and create towel adjacent things, or like beachy kind of products that are all artist made. And I have a few things that I can't talk about yet, but I I'm really excited about. And so more of that, more non-towel collaborations to do alongside the towels is something that I'm really excited about. More usable artwork. And then, yeah, I'm kind of at a point where I'm ready to build a small team. And so I'm kind of putting out feelers for that a little bit. So that's really exciting. And if I can make this project sustain me and the artists and the people that I work with, then I feel successful. You know, I just, again, want to focus on creating intentional things and making this project feel supportive, however that word means to whoever I'm working with. But yeah.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Are there any specific artists that you have your eyes on right now? Or is that something comfortable talking about? But I'm intrigued. But
yeah, you know, I'm always looking for new people. It's tricky because I have to kind of plan really far ahead. So I can't ask a lot of the people that I'm thinking about too far in advance. But I do have a list of people that I can't really share.
of course. Yeah.
And I think it's so exciting also to work with people that work in other mediums because, you know, for example, I worked with the artist Maria Paz, who is a painter, but also makes ceramic work and kind of only paints on ceramic. So it was really exciting to see what happens when a three-dimensional artist makes kind of like, yes, we're making a 3D object, but it is flat essentially. And it's just kind of cool to see what happens when someone who's maybe not a traditional painter or drawer makes a towel. But yeah, so there's a lot of people that I'm thinking about. And then really like, I always am open to suggestions. So I don't have like a submission form on the Plunge website, although I probably should.
That'd be super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just think it's exciting. I really, you know, stage of career doesn't necessarily matter, but I try to focus on people who are making art kind of central to their life practice. And yeah, if you're like young and excited and want to make something cool, like people can totally hit me up always. It might not mean that there's like time or room in my lineup, but it means that I'm looking at your work and I'm going to pay attention to where you are now and where you're going.
Yeah. You'll be ready. You'll be scoping out.
Always watching.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. So there's always kind of something new and exciting, like inspiring you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, social media is such a complicated thing, but for me, I have such an interest in curation and young artists and this kind of sweet place in time where maybe you're trying to decide if you want to take the plunge into an art career, which is something that's really scary to do. But I think, yeah, I think people who are kind of in that beginning stage are like so open-minded, and that's where a lot of like really beautiful creativity happens. And so people like that I'm super interested in, because also too, it's so exciting to see, you know, there are people that I've worked with that have made a towel even like a year and a half ago, who maybe then were like, you know, I'm an artist and I'm really creative, but I just like don't even know if I want to do this. It's so hard.
Mhm.
And then to see them now, a year and a half later, after working together, they're like showing their work in galleries. They're more connected to this like community that we've made. They're reaching out. And I think that's just so cool. So people kind of in that early stage, I'm really interested in, and I'm always looking at on social media and talking to. And yeah, I think that internet is like such a sweet place to find a lot of people and a lot of support, you know, even with all the bad stuff that is tied to it.
Kind of just on a final note, I think I wanted to ask, just based on how interactive you are with young artists, is there any advice that you would give to a young artist, maybe who's scared to post their art, or you know, lean more into their artistic abilities, maybe even to people who are curious about starting a business or just trying to be more creative? Yeah, is there anything you would want to say?
That's a really great question. I think based on a lot of the conversations that I've had with other people who are all trying to do a version of everything you just said, you just do it. Even if it's bad. I think like working that creative muscle just by doing something every day, even if it's something that maybe you don't necessarily think of as creating, even if it's something as simple as, you know, cooking yourself a really yummy meal. As long as you're making things or like trying stuff, just keep going. Because I've noticed in my own life, like, it's all about momentum. And if you can keep a ball rolling, it's so much easier to do more things than it is to stop and start and try to, like, you know, reignite a flame that's like out, you know. And you know, it's easier said than done, because sometimes you're burnt out or you're tired or stressed, or like you might not feel like making something or doing something or trying something or whatever. But I think just in any small way, whether it's like doodling on a pad of paper or going for a walk and like taking a new path, you know, just you exercising their creative muscle is the most important thing. And it's hard to share your work on social media for sure, but then I think my second suggestion would be to connect to the people who you admire, because asking questions takes you so far.
Yeah.
And kind of realizing that other people who it might appear like someone who's showing their work on Instagram all the time, maybe they're pretty self-conscious about it, or maybe they're scared too. But talking to each other and realizing that you're not alone in that fear is super empowering. And I think hearing other people's stories about how they started or how they're making work or whatever, it just is so helpful. So yeah, that. And then I would say never assume. That's a good one. And stay hydrated.
Ooh, yes, that's a good final one. That's important for everyone worldwide.
Yeah, because like really water really gets the wheels turning. Helps with all that other stuff I just said.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was beautiful. I love that. I mean that's all I had for you today, and I so enjoyed learning more about Plunge and yourself, and
Oh, thank you.
so excited to see your future projects and who you're working with. And
Oh, thanks.
yeah, definitely feel inspired myself to do some Instagram lurking to find some cool smaller artists and get some inspiration. So
Cool. Yeah, well, thank you for the time, and it's so nice to chat with you.
yeah, thank you too. It was so nice meeting you.